Hello. Today, I'd like to make a video to highlight a certain piece of hardware. I own this hardware, I use this hardware, I bought this hardware, and currently right now I'm actually recording with this hardware. It is an incredible device whose name kind of doesn't describe all that it does. It can do a lot, and it's really cool, and I'm just going to get to it. It's this. It's the RTX 3060 Ti. Currently, I have the MSI Ventus OC X3, I think. I've used several different models of this card, so I'm going to talk about it kind of in a broad strokes way. This is the one I'm currently using in my system. So I own two of these, actually. Wow, so good I bought it twice. Actually, 5 times, but that's a different story. So, it's amazing. All of them plugged in, worked every single time. No warranty or returns or anything. So the first talking point is price. Price. You want to know how much I spent for this? No, for real. Like, bear with me. Just take a guess. I'll give you a hint. Currently, they're about $450 on Amazon being shipped to the West Coast of the United States. No. What I paid for it back in October of 2021 was $984.74. That's including tax. Let's unpack that. So, back in the tail end of 2021, there was something going around called crypto, and it was amazing, and it took over the internet, and suddenly everyone was just putting dollar bills into their computer and expecting them more to come out. And sort of what happened for some, but not so much for others. How were graphics cards involved? Well, they work off of a proof of work system. And the easiest way to understand that is just to say I showed up, I did work, which is what you do with your graphics card. You kind of plug your graphics card into the network. It does some work, and if you're selected or you're as part of a pool of people working, you get a reward in the form of this digital money. And more people wanted to participate in that, and they bought graphics cards. And suddenly there's no more graphics cards for what was anticipated to be the average PC gamer. So, the RTX 3060 series, or any RTX 30 series, was kind of more of a myth at that point in time. But I bit the bullet. It was just a great time, and we bought it. I bought the 3060 Ti. I paid that much for it. I made sure I got the gaming edition that had some RGB lights on it and everything. It was a lot, but it was incredible. I had to choose between the 3060, the 3060 Ti, the 3070, a bunch of AMD cards that I heard at the time were running hot, inefficient, and not compatible. So I didn't really entertain the subject maybe as much as I should have. And at the time, there was also... Oh, wait. No one else. It was a duopoly at the time. Currently, we have Intel GPUs coming out, doing great stuff. And there's also just a lot of innovation that's happening in that space. And you can see why. At the time, there was a lot of money going into it. I paid a lot of money going into it. And for me, the 3060 Ti made sense. When considering the 3070 for what was at the time twice the price, and the 3060, which admittingly had more VRAM. Didn't understand that, but everything else was just watered down, or maybe eroded down, or soldered down. I don't know the right analogy when it comes to tech, but the 3060 didn't make sense. Also, at the time, it cost pretty much the same, so I didn't go for it. I think it might have been $100 less. So it really made sense to pay $100 more to get what was essentially a kneecapped 3070. Really good time. I gotta say that statement over time has proved to be true. It has provided, on paper mind you, 3070 like performance. And the next thing I want to go into is the performance of the card. And I want to frame this with a couple asterisks. What I was using as a display was a ultra wide running at 2560 by 1080. Currently, I play on one 1920 by 1080 or at a weird triple monitor resolution, which is kind of like 5260 by 1080. Just imagine 3 monitors. So that's what I use. I'm not using the RTX 3060 Ti to power a 4K display. I am not using the RTX 3060 Ti for a triple monitor 2K setup. I'm not using it for 2K resolution. I'm not using it for anything below 1080p. I've always solidly been within this 1080p range, probably because my eyes aren't the greatest. I can't see the difference between 4K and 1080p. I mean, I kind of can, but it's so subtle that I can't. It'd be like asking me, can you tell the difference between 100 frames per second and 200 frames per second? I can't tell the difference. That is why 1080p gaming makes sense for me and why the 3060 Ti made sense for me. Also, 4K displays are expensive. My gosh, they're expensive. But I would love to have an HP 4K OLED display someday. The colors are vibrant. But I want to talk about 3 games that really highlight the 3060 Ti in my experience with them. The first was RuneScape. Yeah. Remember that old RPG you played, MMO RPG you played back in 2010 or 2005 or God forbid even 1999? Yeah, it's been around for a while. Anyways, currently they have what is I think called RuneScape 3 and major graphics overhaul on it. The graphics look incredible. But I didn't know that. I was playing on a Ryzen 5 laptop. I was like using the 3500U or something. Embedded graphics. It wasn't a great time. And because of its laptop form factor, I always turn the graphics down and cap the frame rates to limit heat and to save battery power, which I was successful at that. I never burned myself, so it was cool. When I first plugged in the 3060 Ti, I went to play RuneScape. I was on my way to level 99 woodcutting, and boy, was I so excited to stare at a tree, click it in HD. And that happened. As soon as I got in, I turned all of the graphics up, every single one of them. No frame rate cap, all of it. And it worked. It looked amazing. It was so smooth. And it was able to figure out all these effects. It was able to figure out putting people around. I could swing my camera around. It didn't have this like weird jitter to it. There were so many textures in the game that I literally didn't know were there. And I think when I was working at the Citadel and I like threw a log into a furnace or something and some smoke came out, I think, don't quote me on it, but seeing like some particle effects in RuneScape blew my mind. It was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was here. And for me, it was a mindset change. When I had gone from the embedded graphics to a dedicated graphics card to a dedicated piece of electronics that does that. This is purpose-built. It is purpose-built to run RuneScape in HD, kind of. It does all sorts of other stuff, too. But when I was able to have an experience where I no longer made compromises on the graphics, when I was able to just turn everything up and forget about it. This is a pattern of actions that started with RuneScape, but I do it with every single game now. I have 30 to 40 games in my Steam library, and every time I open one up, I immediately go to the settings, turn everything up, and it works. It looks amazing. I don't have to compromise. I don't have to play it for a bit and be like, oh, I need to turn it down a little bit. Which is something I've done for way too many systems in my life. I really enjoy gaming, and buying this graphics card was amazing. Even at the price of $984. That's a lot. That's a lot. Let's call it a $450 card. It actually had an MSRP of $399, I believe. So the next game I want to highlight is recently Halo Infinite came out. Halo Infinite is like the newest Halo game. It looks amazing, has all sorts of reflections, all sorts of advanced stuff. I think it uses like DirectX 12s and Vulkan and blah, 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 all this other stuff that modern graphics cards support. And I downloaded Halo Infinite and I turned all the settings up and I expected it to break because it's a new game. And I'm like, oh no, not the new game experience. A little bit of backstory. Back when I was a kid, I bought Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, full price. So excited. $60 game of the year edition. Brought it home, installed it, and I was ready for all those amazing graphics featured at E3. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the experience, the ultimate adventure. And boy, were the frames bad. They were so bad. I had to turn several settings down, such as view distance, shadows, LOD. I had to turn off the bloom feature, which was my favorite. I ended up like eventually tweaking it in there, but it looked horrible. Everyone's faces were like really overexposed. But that was such a big letdown for me as a kid that I discounted PC gaming for what would have been the rest of my childhood. I discounted the potential of PC, and I always thought it was just incredibly out of reach. And it's not true. Anyone can PC game, and if you're worried about cost, maybe I'm not the right one to say this, seeing as how I bought this for twice the MSRP. The cost is worth it. PCs last longer, games are cheaper on Steam. I've never spent more than $40 for a game. And I can, if you have a little bit of patience, you can get any kind of game on sale. And if it's an older game, maybe you're like, oh, I really need the whatever console because it plays older games. There's a good chance your PC can do that. It's called emulation. It's amazing. Where was I? Halo Infinite. Got it, downloaded, installed, all the graphics up, max settings. I was playing at, I think 100 FPS or something. It was like way more than my eyes could tell. It was amazing. And just having that great first-person shooter experience, super engaging, throwing, and like, there was no, I don't know how to say it, like, here's your brain enjoying a game, and here's your hardware doing it, and like, the hardware fed my brain the frames, and I was happy. There was no moment where the hardware failed to do that. There was no moment where my immersion was broke. I was able to get fully immersed in several Halo matches, many with friends, and it created a very memorable experience. And I think that experience is something a lot of us have experienced on console. Growing up, I got that experience playing Halo 2 with some people. Halo 2 co-op. First-person shooter co-op experience I've ever had. And it set the bar high for the time, but really great time. The next game I want to highlight is Tales of Arise. This is the latest game in the Tales of series, and I was a really big fan of Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube. Played in 60 FPS. It was amazing. Super smooth experience. Able to run around, and there was no like stuttering or anything, and it played like videos. It was just mind blowing. Also, I love the art style. It had a cell shading art style, and you got to run around, and they redid the combat system. I bought the game fully expecting like a Final Fantasy VII turn-by-turn combat system, and got like a real-time one. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, it was a great game. It inspired me to buy Tales of Arise. And I bought Tales of Arise, and it wasn't perfect. I was a little let down. And that's because Tales of Arise was originally meant for the console. I don't know if originally, but there's definitely some console limitations that have stayed in the game. And one thing I noticed is I could only run it on one monitor. It was fine. Got over that. But what I did do is I got in the game, turned all the graphics up, and played. The game like kind of locks it at 60 FPS by default, and it did. I could just play. That's what I'm trying to say is I could just play. I could turn the game on, have that same console experience, and could just play. And that was cool. And Halo Infinite and Tales of Arise, wildly different genres, so hopefully you vibe with one of them. But being able to just play, that is something I'm super thankful that this card has allowed me to do. I'm able to also use this card for stuff outside of video games. Primarily, it gets used for video games, promise. But it can also do other stuff like video editing. I've done 1080p editing. I've done some 4K editing. Not much, really. I've done exports, rendering. I ran Blender files. I've used numerous 3D programs outside of gaming, and it's worked incredible. I don't hesitate to download a software or look at the minimum specs because, I mean, I guess that kind of goes with it being a modern card. The card is less than 5 years old. However, I think that moving forward, it will retain that level of quality for anything that you can throw at it here. So great for video editing, great for just other weird applications that you might have. I'm not going to tell you to train AI programs with it, but it could probably do it. It has over 4,000 CUDA cores, which are like kind of basic stuff that's really good for AI training. It's good for image detection, all sorts of other stuff that you might want to run on your PC. The next thing I want to talk about the card, and I know this video is getting long, but like I gotta say it. I just got to take a moment, and I want to put down my thoughts about the 3060 Ti. And I know I could have bought like a 3080. I could have bought like 3080 Ti. Probably could for that money now. I don't know. But this card, incredible. Power connector is right here. That is like the standard PCIe 8-pin power connector. Other cards I've seen have used 2 power connectors, which is like an 8 and then a 6. The NVIDIA Founders Edition uses like 2 8-pins that go into a 12-pin or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But what I'm trying to say is, like all of the cards don't use more than 2 connectors. Their power usage at peak, using nearly everything on the card, 200 to 250 watts. Not that much. And you can easily build a 3060 Ti system with like a 700 watt power supply. Maybe more. Maybe less. I don't know. I think I've seen people do like a 600 watt power supply. Not my style. I'd rather have like the upgradability, but the point is, like, you can build a system with the 3060 Ti and it would make sense. It's not going to create a lot of heat within the thing, within the case. And it also is very quiet. It has 3 fans on this one. I really love this one because I think it's a showcasing of like one of the best cooling solutions you can get with this. So if you can't tell, this card is mostly heatsink. The actual card fits right around squarely around this, and then with some like stuff to adapt it to a display, and then the VRAM usually hides out in the back. General layout of a graphics card hasn't changed much, but card heatsink, and the heatsink makes up a lot of the space, cools the card down, so you'll never really thermal throttle with this. I have used MSI Afterburner overclocking solutions and just done a quick and dirty auto overclock where it does like the OC scan. Worked out really well. Not a lot of heat for this card, and it's good to just not worry about that. I've had laptops where it's just like, oh my gosh, it burns. I'll show you a laptop right now. This is a laptop, MSI Stealth 15M. It's a 15-inch laptop. In here it has a i7, and then it also has a 3060 in it. This laptop gets hot, it gets loud, and it gets kind of annoying. It has an all aluminum body. Try and dissipate all that heat. I guess I'm not really making the case that it's good, but the fact that they stuck it in a laptop, pretty good. I'm going to say that lightly because I know laptop GPUs, they never really perform the same. Getting that low power usage in a desktop with incredible performance that can play new games, really good. I don't see that happening when it comes to cards like the 3080 or even the 40 series, which are using just so much power. It's creating issues with like the connectors. It's creating issues with, I gotta be honest, this room is not very big. So if I have what is a 500 watt heater running when I'm playing games, that's not very comfortable. And just having to buy a bigger power supply, also expensive. Having to buy a power supply that can provide that clean power to the newer generation cards, very expensive. You compare it to traditional power supplies. So yeah, that's where I wanted to go with. I just want to touch on like the power considerations. Obviously not as good as what would be, like an embedded solution, but it's really good. There are a lot of features about this card that every day give me that, wow, this is cool factor. I'm a bit of a nerd. I kind of obsess about this stuff, but I look at this and I'm like, who would have thought that? Or why would you do that on such a low end card? Like, I don't know why they did it, but they did. And a lot of what I'm going to say is going to apply to an RTX 3050 card, which please don't, and please don't. It's like, it's slower than a 3060? I don't know what it's for, really. Anyway, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be pretty standard for RTX cards, but it goes on. This card can handle 4 displays. It has 1 HDMI out and then 3 display ports. I thought DisplayPort would be really annoying, but turns out a lot of gaming monitors support it nowadays. And 4 displays. That's really cool. Let me tell you why that's really cool. I have 3 of them running right here. And I can put a 4th one if I want. I can do something else if I want. One really weird use case. Just gonna go over this. I had this in a building where it had like a normal desktop computer and I had the monitor, and then I have a back TV like in the back of the room. Think of like a conference room. There's back TV and the front TV, and then another TV like outside of the room, and they were all able to connect to the same graphics card, and I was able to use them within Windows as just all one workspace area. It was really nice to like mirror the displays if I wanted to play video. It was really nice to have like PowerPoint presenter view which is a really cool thing if you've never seen it. Like when you have two displays, PowerPoint will do like over here, and then it'll give you like a different thing over here with your slide and then the next slide. Big brain stuff. And what I'm getting at is like the card fulfilled that purpose. I put it in a work environment and it was good. I could do that with 3050 or the 3080, but with the 3060 Ti, I can confidently say that whatever I throw at it, it's going to be able to handle. And it's going to do the video editing really well, which is something I run into in my workspace. Video editing. It has something on it called the NVENC or NVEC or NVIDIA encoder or NVIDIA encoder chip, or I don't know, it has so many names. I've seen it named differently in OBS. I've seen it named differently within NVIDIA's documentation. It has a lot of names, but just imagine yourself the graphics card and then the VRAM and then the power connectors and then the display connectors and then all off to the side. NVIDIA put this special chip. They claim it's the same chip on the 3060 up to the 3080, etc. What this chip does is it can take video in, such as me recording right now, this actual video, promise, this is not a fake. It can take video in and convert it into whatever it needs to, or it can spit it out into a file. It's called an encoding chip. It can take video in, it can work with like digital video within an editor, and it can spit video out, like if I was playing a video. That chip can work for resolutions up to like 8K or something. This is like incredible. I'm using a 1080p camera, 1080p display. I'll never know the full potential of this chip, but it's on every RTX card. And it's amazing. And video editing is just so smooth. I remember editing with what was like i5, I think it was like the second generation, and I've also used the first generation Core i series, and that was with some, the graphics cards of the time. Not a great experience. 1080p was hard back then. It was really annoying to layer a bunch of effects and not expect it to just lag, break, timeout, or with the case of Adobe, just disappear. Didn't even say it crashed. It just, boop, it was gone. No, I don't get that with this card. And it's amazing. Have I said it's amazing yet? I don't know if I have. It just is, though. This is a really cool piece of hardware. And right out of the box, I overclocked it. Just let me do that. I don't know. I mean, usually companies like Intel or, yeah, I guess it's just Intel, they kind of hide that behind a paywall with the K series or whatnot. I really think that's it. I really appreciate if you listen to me ramble about this card. I really love this card. This card is incredible, and I would buy it all over again. I'm really looking forward to newer cards. I'm not saying I'll use this for the next 10 years. I'll probably upgrade to a 4060 card. I'd really love a 4080 if supplies actually make sense at the time. But this card has served its purpose for me. I've put it in 3 different other gaming machines for what I would consider like more basic users, just like play Sims or Minecraft. Worked really well for them, and I love this card. And did I say I love this card? It's really cool. Yeah. This is a newer type of video. I'm trying out something different. I want to have something that's where I can just share my experiences. I don't want to have to prepare a bunch and just get all stressed out. I want video making to be fun. And if you showed up here, I hope you learned something. I hope you learned a little bit of history, culture, how the 3060 Ti literally changed my life. And thank you. Also, can't forget that like and subscribe. No, like seriously, I got 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all. So, thank you. Bye.